You don't need to fire a single shot to wind up in a jail cell. Some of the toughest gun laws out there come down on folks who made an honest mistake, not someone out looking to cause trouble. So here's something to chew on. Could that carry piece sitting in your glove box, that mag tucked in your range bag, or just one slip up on a background check tear your whole future apart? In this video, we're going to walk through 10 real-world laws that have dragged gun owners like you and me into courtrooms all across America. We'll show how a cheap Glock switch can land you a federal machine gun charge, how forgetting a pistol at TSA might drain your savings, and how tinkering with your AR the wrong way could bring down a felony. This ain't theory, and it sure as heck ain't just happening to someone else. These are the legal traps that regular, law-abiding gun owners stumble into every day. Don't let some fine print ruin your life. Learn what to watch for before a technicality takes it all away. Each year, the ATF grabs hold of thousands of tiny metal plates and little 3D printed tabs that do one thing: turn a semi-auto pistol or carbine into a machine gun. They call them conversion devices. You'll see them online, sold as airsoft parts or precision backplates, but the minute one of those crosses a state line in a box with your name on it, federal law says you've just taken possession of a full-blown, unregistered machine gun. The National Firearms Act has spelled this out plain as day since 1934. A conversion device doesn't have to be installed, doesn't even need to be anywhere near a firearm. Just having it in your possession is enough to slap you with a felony charge. Think about how fast curiosity can turn into catastrophe. A buddy at the range pulls out a switch no bigger than your thumbnail. You toss it in your range bag, figuring you'll give it a look later. And just like that 5-second choice can bring you 10 years in federal prison, plus a fine that could run up to $250,000. Prosecutors don't have to prove you meant to break the law. The statute's what they call strict liability. Even the dust left behind from a taken-apart switch can be used in court, since judges have ruled that anything you can restore pretty easily still counts as a machine gun. And enforcement's only picked up steam since 2020. Customs and Border Protection scans shipping containers for part numbers linked to overseas sellers, mostly out of Asia. Local lawmen are working closer than ever with ATF crime gun intel centers, tying seized switches to spent casings from drive-by shootings. Lawful gun owners end up in the net whenever a tip, a traffic stop, or some flashy Instagram post shows off a switch that just looked cool. Getting ready to board a plane's already enough to rattle your nerves. Take off your boots, empty your pockets, shuffle through under harsh lights. That kind of pressure makes it easy for even the most responsible carriers to forget they left a pistol tucked under a sweatshirt in the laptop sleeve. But TSA agents don't miss much. They're watching those X-ray screens close, and the second they spot a gun silhouette, everything stops. They call in a supervisor, and your whole travel plan goes up in smoke. The numbers show just how common this slip-ups become. In 2023, TSA officers caught somewhere around 6,700 firearms at checkpoints, and 93% of them were loaded. Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston topped the list, but even small-town airports see it happen. Federal rules say civil penalties start at $1,500 if the gun's unloaded but packed in your carry-on. If there's a live round in the chamber or a loaded mag clipped in, that fine jumps to $3,000. Folks who do it more than once could be looking at as much as $17,000. And they might get referred to state prosecutors too. Florida and Georgia don't usually bring criminal charges against first-time offenders. But missing your flight, getting embarrassed in front of a crowd, and months of paperwork and hearings are plenty of punishment in their own right. In states where jail time's mandatory like New York, you're looking at arraignment, gun confiscation, and a criminal record. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives cooked up Form 4473 to log every gun sale made at retail in the United States. Most folks just skim through it, check no all the way down, and hand it back over the glass counter. But that easy process hides some serious tripwires, an old domestic violence charge from your college days, a restraining order you figured had run out, or smoking a little marijuana now and then, even if it's legal in your state. Marking no when the honest answer should be yes opens the door to a felony indictment. The Gun Control Act don't play around. It sets the penalty at up to 10 years in federal prison and a fine of $250,000. Now, the Department of Justice doesn't chase after most folks who mess up by accident. U.S. attorney offices are already swamped, but just because it's rare don't mean it won't happen. When they do decide to make an example of someone, that person's life gets turned inside out. Lawyer bills pile up quicker than the price of a decent pickup truck, and even if you take a plea deal, you're still looking at years of probation and a permanent loss of your right to own firearms. A lot of buyers figure that if their record's been expunged, it's all behind them, but federal databases don't always let go that easy. If an ECS examiner spots something like domestic assault dismissed, your background check goes into delayed status until someone digs deeper to clear things up. Folks living in states where cannabis is legal for recreation get caught in a different kind of snare. The question on the form asks, are you an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic drug, or any other controlled substance? Federal law still lists marijuana as a Schedule I drug. So if you've got a medical card and you check no, the ATF sees that as perjury. Plain and simple. Magazine limits don't usually cross folks' minds in free states. At ranges across Texas, Arizona, or Idaho, shooters top off 30-round AR mags without thinking twice. But drive a few hundred miles into California or New Jersey, and that exact same magazine turns into contraband. This ain't some paper tiger law either. Drivers have had their mags taken, been cuffed on the roadside, and hauled into courtrooms just for carrying what amounts to a spring-loaded metal box. California laid down its 10-round limit back in the year 2000. Since then, lawsuits have opened and shut short windows of legality. But as it stands now, the ban's still holding while it works its way through appeals. If you're caught, you're looking at a fine of $100 for each magazine and a misdemeanor that could land you in county jail for up to a year. New Jersey and Washington hit harder fines that can climb up to $10,000 and felony charges that leave a mark for life. Cops don't need to prove you meant to do harm. Just having the item inside state lines is enough to break the law. Tourists and new transplants make up the bulk of these arrests. Movers pack up the house, toss everything into a rental truck, forget about a shoebox full of Glock mags left in a dresser drawer, cross a state line, and wind up on the wrong side of an anonymous tip or a routine traffic stop. Competitive shooters heading to matches sometimes count on sport exemptions, but if the paperwork ain't just right or the officer doesn't know the rules for events, your gear could still get hauled off. The loudest sound in the world is a gunshot you weren't expecting. If the shooter didn't mean to pull the trigger and wasn't acting with reasonable care, the courts call it a negligent discharge. One round hit in a parking lot or punching through drywall can be all it takes to turn a law-abiding gun owner into a criminal defendant. Penalties run the whole spectrum. South Carolina law starts with fines of $200 and up to 30 days in jail if nobody gets hurt. But if that round hits a house or any place where folks might be living or work in, the charges get real serious real fast. Prosecutors might stack up reckless endangerment charges, and that can lead to sentences reaching up to 10 years. Some states, like Arizona, enforce what's called Shannon's Law, where fearing a gun inside city limits for no good reason, even if no one gets hurt, counts as a Class 6 felony. If a child or bystander ends up injured, that negligent discharge can turn into aggravated assault or even manslaughter. Most accidents come down to the same old mistakes. Carrying a pistol loose in your pocket with no holster, let your keys or loose change snag the trigger. Folks who appendix carry sometimes reholster too fast and catch the trigger on a folded-up t-shirt. Shotguns leaned against pickup beds slip and go off when the tailgate slams shut. Striker-fired pistols these days won't fire unless there's pressure on the trigger, but in the heat of the moment. With adrenaline pumping or a few drinks passing around, folks forget their finger discipline. Back in 1986, Congress passed the Firearm Owners Protection Act to help honest gun owners move through states that didn't see things the same way. The law says that if you're allowed to have a firearm where you started and where you're headed, you've got the right to transport it through other states in between. But there's a catch, several of them in fact. The gun has to be unloaded, locked in a hard-sided case that's not the glove box or center console, and out of reach from the driver. Your ammo's got to be in a separate locked container too. If you get pulled over and anything's out of place, local law enforcement can hit you with state charges, federal protection, or not. New York and New Jersey are still the worst about skirting around. FOPA prosecutors out there argue that the second you step out of your vehicle, whether it's for gas, food, or checking into a hotel, your journey ain't continuous anymore, and that voids federal protection. Some courts have ruled in favor of travelers, but those wins only come after months behind bars, losing your firearms and shelling out tens of thousands in legal fees. In New Jersey, mandatory minimums can slap you with 3 years in prison just for carrying a handgun without a state-issued permit, even if you've got valid carry licenses from other places. Parents have a lot on their plate. You clock out, hustle across town, slip into the school pickup line, fire off one last work email, and then it hits you. Your everyday carry is still sitting in the center console. Now, federal law gives licensed carriers some leeway if the firearm stays inside a private vehicle. But most states stack tighter rules on top of that. In South Carolina, even with a concealed weapon permit, you're not shielded from the 5-year prison term and $5,000 fine tied to bringing any kind of firearm onto K through 12 school grounds. School resource officers sometimes catch violations during random checks or when a student reports seeing a holster clip sticking out. Even if your gun's locked in the glove box, that might not be enough. Some state laws say the firearm has to be unloaded and locked in the trunk to be legal. Prosecutors don't usually show much mercy. Their line is that school zones ought to have the highest level of safety, and more often than not, the courts back them up. Juggling your role as a parent with your right to defend yourself takes a little planning and a level head. Some folks keep a quick access safe at home and grab their carry piece after school pickup before heading out on the rest of the day's errands. Others bolt small lock boxes into their trunks, letting them follow the letter of the law while still keeping a defensive firearm handy a few minutes down the road. Knowing how your state writes its laws matters a lot. Some places define school grounds to include nearby sidewalks, parking lots, and sometimes even the grass out front. Modern modular firearms invite folks to start tinkering. That pistol brace feels a little loose, so you swap it for a collapsible stock. That angled hand stop looks off, so you bolt on a vertical grip instead. And just like that, a pistol that started off legal under federal law now fits the definition of a short-barreled rifle, meaning it's got a barrel shorter than 16 inches or an overall length under 26 inches. Plus, either a stock you can shoulder or a vertical foregrip. If you made that change without filling out ATF Form 1, paying $200, and waiting on approval, congratulations, you've just built yourself an unregistered NFA item. The punishment's the same as having a machine gun, up to 10 years in prison, and fines that can go over $10,000. And no, the ATF won't take "I didn't know" as a valid defense. The recent back and forth over brace rules just shows how quickly the ATF can shift its interpretation. Still, the courts keep handing down convictions when there's proof of a short barrel, a stock meant for the shoulder, and a foregrip up front. Responsible parents teach their kids to respect firearms, but curiosity still packs a punch. That's why a lot of states back up that lesson with child access prevention laws. These rules say you've got to lock up your guns if there's any reasonable chance a minor might get TOEM. If a kid actually handles the firearm, the penalties go up, and if someone gets hurt, they shoot sky high. Picture this: you set your pistol on the nightstand, then head out to mow the lawn. Your teenager's buddy comes over, sees the gun, racks the slide, and snaps a selfie. Even if there's no round chambered, prosecutors might still hit you with reckless endangerment or unlawful storage. In Massachusetts, leaving a firearm unsecured is a misdemeanor, good for a fine and confiscation. But in Florida, that same slip-up can turn into a felony if someone gets hurt. And once criminal charges are in play, civil lawsuits often follow, sometimes to the tune of 7 figures. Keeping your gun secure doesn't mean you have to give up fast access. There are quick access safes out there that pop open in under 2 seconds using RFID tags, biometric pads, or good old-fashioned simplex dials. Long guns can ride in corner vaults, mounted muzzle down with the action locked just like a cruiser-ready shotgun. Of course, hardware's only half the battle. Teaching kids early with age-appropriate training goes a long way toward taking the mystery out of firearms and keeping them from sneaking off to explore what they don't fully understand. Federal law also lays down hard lines. Folks barred from having guns include felons, fugitives, people using drugs unlawfully. those ruled mentally unfit, and anyone under certain restraining orders. That ban stays in place no matter what state law says unless your rights were officially expunged or you got a full pardon. Even just having ammunition can bring a separate federal charge under Title 18. United States Code, Section 922, Paragraph G. Courts take a wide view when it comes to possession, just having the ability to control a firearm, what they call constructive possession, is enough to land you in trouble. A rifle locked in your roommate's closet can bring charges if your fingerprints show up on the safe's keypad. Sentences can go up to 10 years in federal prison. And under the Armed Career Criminal Act, repeat offenders can face a mandatory minimum of 15 years behind bars. Your best shot at a defense is showing you didn't know the firearm was there or had no control over it. But juries don't usually side with folks when a gun's found in a shared space. Even old-timey firearms don't get a free pass unless they're officially recognized as pre-1899 curios or relics under separate sections of the law. Life's full of surprises. A non-violent felony from way back, maybe something you did as a teenager, might feel like ancient history. But the law doesn't forget. Getting your rights restored varies by state. Some places make you go through the governor's office. Others have automatic reinstatement after a certain number of years. But at the federal level, the path's been blocked since 1992, when Congress quit funding the process. These days, folks are left wandering through tangled pardon boards, trying to get their lives back on track. So there you have it, 10 gun laws that put good people behind bars over honest mistakes. From TSA slip-ups to braced pistols, banned magazines, to a checked box on the wrong line. These aren't rare edge cases. This is happening all over the country to folks just like you and me. Ever run into one of these rules yourself? Got a story that'd make others think twice? Let us know down in the comments. If this helped you stay on the right side of the law, hit that like button. Share it with every gun owner you know, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. Stay sharp, stay legal, and we'll catch you next time.